Welcome to the Monos Pod with Tino and Matt. I think this is episode 12. We will correct it if need be. Matt with the fresh fade, hair all cut, national shirt. What's up, Matt?
It's going well, going good. Excited about the season. I love the schedule. I've been watching a lot of the schedule. I think keeping I kept the minor league baseball TV, but as part of the MLB package now too.
Yep.
And they fixed the apps, and it's all working great. And I love how the schedule is balanced. So when there's fewer MLB games, you could just jump right over to minor league baseball and watch that. So it's been great so
Absolutely.
far.
So I think this episode, we're just going to dive into the first week of the minor leagues, what we're excited to watch in the minor leagues in 23. I thought we'd talk a little bit about some of the players who have graduated to the major leagues, how they're doing, and then maybe touch on who we see as ascending into that top 10, top 20 pretty soon here and who might be falling out.
Mm-hmm.
All right, let's get started, man. So five of my top 10 are in the major leagues as of right now. So
Mm-hmm.
Anthony Volpe has debuted with the Yankees. He's batting ninth for the most part, starting at shortstop. He had a rest day yesterday, batted leadoff today. I think he went 1 for 4.
Mm-hmm.
Corbin Carroll, my number two, playing every day in Arizona, left field. Jordan Walker, starting right fielder. He's my number 4 for the St. Louis Cardinals. Gunnar Henderson's playing every day for the Baltimore Orioles. Grayson Rodriguez, my number 8, has started 2 games, I believe, for the Orioles so far. First impressions of some of those young players that are debuting in the major leagues right now that are on our top 100 lists.
Yeah, so it is interesting how many are going to graduate, right? So they're going to be off our list next
Mm-hmm.
time we do an update. Um, yeah, so I've watched a lot of Carol. I've actually watched a lot of them. Probably the one I've watched the least, just because I don't have much invested in St. Louis, is Jordan Walker. You could probably
Mm-hmm.
fill in there.
Mm-hmm.
I've watched a lot of Carroll. Carroll's been great. I'm impressed on the way he's been working counts. I think there was kind of a bit of instability because they faced a lot of lefties at the start and a lot of Dodger pitching. So
Yep.
he's moving from like 5 to 6 to 7 in the lineup. He seems to be settled around 5. I would like to see them put him down at 1 eventually. Um, I love the speed, and I love that. I think what we talked about before, that Arizona was really cautious last year about his shoulder not getting injured at the end of last year, so he didn't steal much, but now he's taking advantage of his speed.
Right.
What I love about this season so far is these fast guys like Carroll. Will not stop at second. They'll still second, and then they'll jump on to
The
third.
third, yeah.
He did that today versus a lefty. Once he was on second after stealing off versus a lefty, it's a lot easier with a lefty having kind of impaired vision to second base, that he
Right.
just snagged third. I think um, I think that was I think that was 2 nights ago. Actually, the person that did that today was Bobby Witt Jr.
Yep.
Um, so yeah, so I watched a lot of him. I watched G-Rod's starts. G-Rod's first start had better numbers. I like how he struggled initially versus Texas in his first start and then came back very strong. Um, I think his second start, even though the numbers were worse, I think his stuff was much better in that second start. He was getting in tons of 0-2, 1-2 counts, pitching some nasty stuff. He just was unable to put him away. And the A's were doing a good job of kind of flicking some of his pitches away, or flicking them into singles. So yeah, I think once he gets that next level of command of kind of that nasty 1-2 or 0-2 pitch that's just outside the zone, that could fool hitters, he could be pretty dangerous.
I was
The other
surprised.
issue
I
with
was
him
so I was
is the
surprised.
second
Go ahead.
and then the other issue with him is a second and third time through. His second start, he hit 99 pitches. That's the first time since 2019 that he hit that many pitches. So there's I don't think it's so much as hitters are being fooled, but he loses command because he's losing stamina.
I was what was interesting about Grayson's starts to me is that I think of him as, he's got like 70 grade velocity, but probably like a 60, 65 shape four seamer. But
Mhm.
his changeup is supposed to be his premium pitch, right? His plus pitch. And his changeup didn't look great to me in his first couple of starts. His slider looked a lot better than his changeup did to me. So he looked more fastball slider. And I saw batters were more fooled by the slider than the fastball. Um, I still think he's still my number one starter based on my updated 100. I think he was your SP1 as well. Are you still comfortable with him as your SP1, um, seeing those two starts, or are you a little bit worried about his upside potential after seeing those starts?
To me it confirms it more. So if he was throwing 95 and having trouble with, his command's not there. His control is. If he was having trouble with control and command, and his velo wasn't in 98, 99, which was pretty consistent with his fastball, I'd be
Right,
more concerned. But it was a pretty easy 98, 99 too. He doesn't overthrow. He's a big guy. I think it's just building stamina and getting used to how is he going to get them out when he gets ahead in the counts, which he
right.
did in that second start.
I think I want to see the changeup really pop
Mm-hmm.
before I feel comfortable kind of definitively like staking my claim to him being SP1, right?
Mm-hmm.
I also think that in that park, especially to right-handed batters, I want to see him just pitch to contact a little more, right?
Exactly.
I think
Mm-hmm.
that he can go deeper in games knowing that left field is impossible to hit a home run unless you're Ryan
Mm-hmm.
Mountcastle.
Mm-hmm.
He looked good. I liked what I saw. I think that you know, the stuff is there. You want to see more command, and like I said, I want to see that changeup, and I want to see the slider continue to be spotted low and outside to right-handed hitters, and I want to continue to see more development of the changeup. But yeah, everything is there. I think he remains my SP1. I don't, Harrison, Stone, Taj Bradley, some of the other pitchers, they're just not. I don't think they're quite as talented as Grayson is. Maybe Yuri is the only one I can see overtaking him potentially.
Mm-hmm.
To Corbin
And then
Carroll,
the
yeah,
other thing about his changeup, and that was supposed to be a 65-70 pitch,
right,
and it's been pretty shitty. It was better the second start, but he was spiking it all the time, wasn't fooling anybody
right,
in the first start. And
right.
if he could develop that further, then that could be his 1-2 pitch.
So the changeup is supposed to be his out pitch, right? It's supposed to
Yeah.
be
Mm-hmm.
his plus, and it just hasn't looked that way so far. Um, Anthony Volpe, we have to talk about a little bit. Has not really hit much at all so far. I don't know if he's feeling the pressure, if facing facing major league pitching every day is obviously different than hitting in spring training, but he's clearly, scuffling a little bit out of the gates. What I do love about Volpe is that the Yankees continue to just roll him out there, right? He had a day to rest yesterday, but the fact that they're not benching him, the fact that they continue to roll him out at short says to me that they're obviously they're invested, right? But there's no
Mm-hmm.
knee-jerk reaction to him struggling. They probably expected him to struggle quite a bit in his first 10 games or so. From a fantasy standpoint, obviously he's hitting 129 with a 250 OBP, but he has provided 3 stolen bases, and his
Mm-hmm.
walk rate is 13.9%. So I watch most of his at bats as someone who rosters him in my home league, our home league. He has definitely gotten the Julio Rodriguez treatment as a rookie. I've seen tons of pitches outside of the zone that have been called strikes, and him reacting in a very surprised way, which says to me that he understands exactly what the strike zone should be, and I think that'll play to his advantage in the future. Um, hopefully nobody's reacting to 11 games of Anthony Volpe and jumping ship. But to me, I'm waiting for the power to come and the hits to come. I think what's cool about him and what works about him is you can ride him out knowing that you're going to continue to get steals, and that's not going to stop, right? He's going to walk, he's going to steal bags. I also like the fact that they hit him leadoff tonight. He went 1 for 4, but they hit him leadoff. I know eventually that's where they want him, and it's only a matter of time, I think, before he does hit leadoff in that lineup. Any
And he
thoughts on Volpe?
started at the start with a double.
Any thoughts of Volpe for you?
Yeah, so I think one thing to pay attention to is some of the Roy people last year started very slowly.
Right.
Rodriguez started slowly, Witt started slowly, even Rutschman, when he came up, he started slowly. And but what all of them had is they were working counts, they had the eye there, and that's what Volpe's doing, right? So he's not like Kang all the time. He understands the zone. He's making contact. So it seems like, it's ready to burst at some point. Right. What I love about him in what I've watched, especially his steals, so he's showing on Savant as maybe 70 percentile speed, but his base running is 99% percentile.
Yep.
The way he gets the jumps on the steals is really cool, and how he reads pitchers.
Yep.
He kind of gets that running start, and his steals haven't even been close or contested by the catcher. So right. I just love his IQ as a runner is top notch. So yeah, I'm not gonna step back from saying he's number 2 or in that same tier as Carroll.
We mentioned Jordan Walker. Do you have anything to add with Jordan Walker? Have you been able to him much at all?
He surprised me with his hit. He's showing it with his hit. I think the numbers speak for themselves with him. I think it's going to be between him and Carroll as the NL Rookie of the Year.
So Jordan Walker, I love. I do wonder why pitchers throw him strikes. He's not walking at all, right? And he does chase a bit. And so I worry about him a little bit in that I do think that pitchers will stop throwing strikes to him and just wait for him to chase. But he's such a power player, right? I think the 40 home run projection is very realistic. And I also think that he's not going to hit. I can't see him hitting 240, 250. I think he's a 270, 280 sort of hitter. Yeah, Jordan Walker's dope. Jordan Walker's super fun to watch. The other player that is in the majors in my top 10 is Gunnar Henderson. Have you watched much of Henderson? What is your first take? What do you expect from him?
Same thing. He's struggling early, like getting used to the majors. He's not doing anything out of the ordinary that would be overly concerning. He's protected in a very good lineup. I could see him, he could get back to normal as far as the prospect goes, the top prospect goes, with a couple breakout games, especially in that lineup. So yeah, same. I'm really don't have any hesitation about dropping him either, right, at this point.
So interesting with him, his walk rate is super high. So he's swinging 35% of the time so far, and MLB average is 47.1. So he's taking a ton of pitches, but his whiff rate is 43.5%, and the major league average is 24.7. So he's both walking a ton, taking a ton of pitches, and swinging and missing much more than you'd like to see.
His exit velo is really high.
It is. So I wonder
if is high.
There's just an approach not issue, but just he's kind of working through as a 21-year-old, working through like what is it like to face a major league pitcher over and over, right? He's got when do I take, when do I swing? I don't think it's a matter of pitch recognition as much as it is approach, but I fully expect him to work that out. Um, let's see. Are there any? So so I have Casas, Miguel Vargas. Who those are the two major leaguers in my 11 through 20. Uh,
Mm-hmm.
any thoughts on either of those two? I think that Casas is kind of what we expect. We've seen him hit a home run off a lefty, skilled hitter, a little bit less of a power hitter than you expect from someone that big. But I don't know if he has like Matt Olson, Vladimir Guerrero Jr. sort of upside, but I think he's just below that. And he's starting to show that even in the first 10 games or so. So Vargas, interestingly, we all knew Vargas could take a walk, but like he's taken a lot of walks.
Uh,
What do you think about
he's like
Vargas?
Vinny.
What do you think about him in the Dodgers lineup and what he's done so far?
Yeah, so yeah, what's weird about him, he's walking so much we really don't get a large sample size of
What he can
what
do
he
with
could
the
do with a
bat?
hit.
Yeah,
So yeah, and even his sprint speed is let's
what's
see,
it's 25th percentile right now.
yeah, 25th percentile. So I'm wondering how that's measuring out, right?
Right.
How how much um how much contact is he making for that to be measured, right?
Right.
As far as
Well,
balls in play.
so here's what's interesting to me about him is he clearly, okay, so he was a plus hit tool, 20 to 25 home run power hitter at third base without speed like 12
Mm-hmm.
months ago. So we saw him as probably like 290, 360, with an OPS of like low to mid 800s, right? That and without speed, that's what we saw.
Mm-hmm.
Might hit somewhere between third and fifth in the Dodgers lineup, third baseman. That was Miguel Vargas. All of a sudden, he comes up to the Dodgers late 22 and he's playing second base. He looks a little more lean, 94th percentile sprint speed. His stock goes up in the offseason. Everyone's like, he's got 10 to 15 steal potential. Look at that sprint speed. And plus the hit tool that we talked about in the power, we got really excited. People drafted him in redraft as a second baseman with power and speed. And he comes out and he hasn't hit a home run yet. And he hasn't stolen a bag yet, but
Mm-hmm.
he's walked a ton and his OBP is 475, right?
Uh-huh.
With the sprint speed of 25th percentile.
Mm-hmm.
So what is he really? Is he a power speed second baseman? Is he a good hit tool, a little bit less power third baseman? I don't really know what to make of him as of yet. I do wonder why hasn't he stolen a bag though? If he
Mm-hmm.
had 94th
Yeah, he's been
percentile
on.
sprint speed last year and he's
Mm-hmm.
been on like just below half the time.
Mm-hmm.
At some point he has to steal bags.
Mm-hmm.
So the question is from a fantasy standpoint, what is his value if the hit tool is what we thought it was?
Mm-hmm.
He hits for some semblance of power, but he doesn't steal bases. What is he for you?
Yeah, yeah, he's a mystery to me right now as far as how that's going to play out. And Roberts himself, even though Roberts, the famous stolen base for Boston, he doesn't like making his players making outs on the bases.
Mm-hmm.
And that could be part of it. Um, why is he on so much with the new rules and not attempting a stolen base?
Right.
For example, you get somebody with maybe just above average speed, like McCormick for the Astros.
Right.
And he's taking advantage of the new rules, right?
Right.
I think he had a couple more today. He's at 4 or 5 steals. Why isn't Vargas doing that if he's at that level?
Do you know how
Um,
many steals the Dodgers have as a team?
No, what are they at?
Any guesses?
3.
Close, 2. So James Outman has 2 steals, and that's it.
Oh my God.
And I don't
Wow.
know if that's a team approach or if that's
Mm,
um, a comment on Vargas. But the reality is, like, to me, if he's not going to steal bases at all, which he hasn't done yet, then he is kind of like any other second baseman or any other third baseman. Like, he's good, and I want him on my team, but is he Marcus Simeon? Is he Andres Jimenez? Is he gonna hit as much as Jose Altuve? Is he Jazz Chisholm, who's eligible at second base? I don't think he's any of those guys. At least
mhm.
not yet. And at third base,
Especially if he's batting seventh, he's not going to give you very many counting stats. He's
right.
going to
And
get
he's
on base a
certainly
lot. How
at
many
third
runs is he going
base,
to get even in that lineup?
at third base, he's definitely not breaking into the Riley, Arenado, even the Bregman range, really. Like, I could see him maybe at his peak reaching Alex Bregman. So it'll be interesting. I would watch his speed. I would watch his attempted stolen bases as we move forward, and his sprint speed, to see if last year was an anomaly or if last year was actually how fast he is. But
Mm,
that would give me pause for sure
mm,
with Miguel Vargas.
mm-hmm. And it's hard with the Dodgers, right? Any prospect with the Dodgers, what you you, you could critique Arizona with Carroll. He's at 5 now, but he could easily be 1 because his competition is Josh Rojas, right?
Right.
And that's not much competition. But what can you do with the Dodgers? Betts, Freeman, Smith. You can't argue with that
Right.
top 3, right?
Right. Not at all.
You can't break into that. And the way Muncy is hitting home runs again this year, as cleanup, and then JD Martinez, how are you going to move ahead of that?
You're
And then with
probably not.
Outman hitting with power, how are you going to move ahead of that?
Right.
So
He's
so
probably
yeah.
the bottom 4 of that lineup from this point, I don't know, till at least midseason or maybe the end of the year, unless he really breaks out. Let's take a quick break. We'll come back. We'll have our Ken Waldichuk conversation, talk a little bit about Gabriel Moreno and some of the others who have debuted, and then we'll break into some of the guys we're excited about. We'll be right back. All right,
Okay.
man. Ken Waldichuk, give it to me. He was my number 23 prospect and my let's see, 1, 2. I had Tosh Bradley ahead, Gavin Stone, Harrison, Yuri Perez, Grayson. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. My number 6 SP is Ken Waldichuk. He got lit up his first 2 starts. He goes against Baltimore tonight. He goes 6+ innings. Looks good. Stuff looks great to me, right? I watch him. I'm like, he's everything I thought he was. Tell me why I'm wrong. Tell me why I shouldn't rank him in my top 30 or top 25.
um, I don't know. I think I didn't watch his start today. It looked, so I'm just going off numbers. He looked just on paper it looked better.
Mm-hmm.
Um, there's no concerns with velocity. Um, I think historically, I'm not making a good argument against him here. I just think historically, you just need to be cautious about writing off a young starting pitcher too soon.
Yep.
Look at somebody who is kind of like a 2-3 starter like Giolito. He sucked his whole first year, right? He was getting shelled, but
Yep.
everybody knew he had good stuff. It just takes a while for them to adjust.
Mm-hmm.
Who we were just talking about, G-Rod, it's evident he has elite stuff, but he struggles, right? So
Mm-hmm.
I'm cautious to argue against any young SP because of that. And I think in dynasty and keeper leagues, you need to take the hit there because
Right.
you're not you're not going to get a 1, 2, or a very good 3 starter in redraft if your redraft is 10 to 15 players.
Right.
And if you want to have a starter rotation where you're going to keep 3 or 4 workhorse starters, you gotta take the hit of Waldachek struggling.
Right.
What I like about Waldachek is he does have that he's not the 6 foot strider who throws very hard. Um, he's the bigger pitcher. He's got the workhorse frame, and
Yep.
he's in Oakland, and Oakland doesn't mind giving him innings. And I think the innings early, if you could build stamina early for that type of build, he's a good investment.
His so I did watch his start against Baltimore tonight, and I saw the mid 90s fastball up and away from a right-hander that's riding and great strikeouts. I saw the sweeper. I think the stuff is there. He pitches in Oakland, which means I think he's going to have a low ERA and a lower WHIP, and probably not have a great win-loss record, but put up good metrics. And he's going to take some lumps, right? Not he's not Yuri Perez. He's not Grayson Rodriguez, in that their stuff is so elite that the minute they come up, he's gonna be able to dominate. That's not him. But his stuff is good enough that he needs some reps. He's gonna get hit around, and I think he's gonna learn from it. Um, I'm actually super encouraged by his start tonight. I still buy into him. I still would rather have him over a lot of the guys I have in his area. Um, Taj Bradley, incidentally, I have one spot above him. Taj Bradley came up and did the Ken Waldichuk thing, right? Where he pitched okay, but he wasn't dominant. And the thing for Taj Bradley is he pitched for Tampa and they haven't lost yet. So he's going to get wins. But I still believe in Waldichuk. I think his stuff is there. I think he's learning. He's taking his lumps. Oakland is willing to invest in him in that way. The one thing you know about him is um, he's going to have reps, right? He's going to have innings. And fantasy wise, you have to have those in order to win. And so if he's your SP, he's my what, SP7, SP8. If he's in that spot for you, ultimately down the road, he's going to pay huge dividends. Even if he's in a redraft, even if you're in a redraft and he's your back end starter, I think stick with Waldichuk, like hang on to him. The stuff is there, the progress is there, and you would expect him to learn from his mistakes so far.
Mm-hmm.
Who else in your top like 30, 40 has been promoted and we can talk about? Um, so I have Waldichuk, I have Bradley who started tonight. Um, Gabriel Moreno, there's one. So I have
Mm-hmm.
Moreno, and I think he's the only guy I have between 31 and 40 who's debuted so far.
Mm-hmm. Josh Young.
Yeah, that's one. He's way down for me. I'm not a Josh Young groupie like you.
I haven't been following him, so I don't have much knowledge to share.
I think he's been from what I know, he's been chasing a ton. Let
Just like
me take
last
a
year,
look.
huh?
Yeah. Let me take a look. I see a lot of blue in his initial baseball savant. Let's see here. Batted ball profile. Josh Young. Uh his whiff rate is exactly 10% higher than league average. Swing rate is about average. First pitch swing, 50%. Um, I don't know. Josh Young, where did you have Josh Young in your updated top 100?
Let's see. Where did I have him?
I had him 83. He dropped a ton for me. He to me, he's a like a 50 to 55 hit tool, like 60 power if he's able to reduce his swing and miss. I don't love him. I think he's a run of the mill third baseman you can find in any kind of redraft league in the middle rounds, right?
Mhm.
He's let's see, who's a good comp from a statistical standpoint? Let me find it. He's like a back end third baseman for me in a 12 team league.
Mhm.
That's very much a backhanded compliment. It's intended to be that way. Let's see. Hold on. Let me
I'm
find
trying
this.
to pull up my list here.
Redraft third baseman Josh Young. I would have in the I
I think
don't
I have.
know. High end would be like Matt Chapman, Brandon Drury, Cabrian Hayes. If Cabrian Hayes can hit, like Alec Boehm, he's in that range, right? I don't think he's an Alex Bregman, Nolan Arenado type.
Mhm. If
He's
he
not.
if he hits his target, at some point he could be between a 5 and 10 third baseman, between the 5 and 10 range. If he hits his
So,
ceiling,
so
but
what? What?
he never could be a top five third baseman.
So what's his ceiling though? It's what,
His
25
ceiling is
home
280,
runs,
25 home runs, 90
90
RBI.
runs, 90 RBIs, right?
Mhm.
So with no speed, if you compare him to Gunnar Henderson with no speed, what does that make him?
Yeah.
Like 8, 9, 10?
Mhm.
I don't know. I'm not I don't love him from a fantasy standpoint at all. I think there's reasons to believe he won't hit 25 home runs. And I think even if he hits his ceiling, he's not really worth paying too much attention to.
Mhm.
Obviously not my guy. All right.
I think even his current stats, right? He's at 824 OPS. I think that's a fair high for him,
Or yeah.
right?
Yep. Like that's kind of his peak.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Uh Oswald Peraza and
Raza
he,
hasn't graduated.
no, he hasn't. Cabrera has. Do you think Peraza's coming up with Volpe's struggles initially?
Oh no, no, they're
No.
sticking with Volpe. I don't see him. I think the I think what happened today was a message.
Yep.
Um, he's leading off, and this is who we're investing in.
What
So
about Ezekiel Tovar?
yeah. Yeah, Tovar's the one that's going to initially struggle. What's going to keep him in the lineup is his defense.
Yep.
Yeah, I could see him being a solid contributor at shortstop. I don't see him being a top five shortstop at any point. He could reach the top 10 at some point, being in Colorado. He does have the hit tool to take advantage of the big outfield there.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't see him like as this huge speed power guy.
So do
There.
you invest in him? Like, is he someone you are interested in Dynasty, or is he just kind of a
No,
the
no.
mill sort
I
of
think um I think if I were investing, I'd have a short-term shortstop, and if you want to go defense solid shortstop, I would invest in Mason Wynn and have a shortstop to plug that hole until Mason Wynn comes up.
right?
And Wynn has struggled initially, but he went 3 for 5 today, hit his first home run today. He's really starting to get in gear. I think
Right.
they kind of took the pressure off him too. They moved him from leadoff to number two. Just to maybe relax a bit, but he from the two hole, he's been hitting a lot better.
Right. I think I excuse me, I'd rather have a run of the mill redraft shortstop and wait for like a Christian Hernandez or a Felton Celestin or someone like that
Mm.
who has like elite potential.
Hmm.
God damn. I think Tovar doesn't have that potential to me.
Uh-huh. Yeah, and we were talking about people who aren't rostered in our league. Those are two people that should be rostered.
Right.
I was thinking of even trading because I have Wid, and then I have Tatis, hopefully knock on wood, in a week, who's at least shortstop eligible for this year.
Right.
I was thinking of trading Win and picking up one of those guys
Yep.
with further proximity because nobody's picking them up, right? Um,
Totally.
so yeah, especially with the talent of Hernandez or Celestin.
So one more. So on my top 100, one more that's in the majors right now that I think we should talk about. Your NL Rookie of the Year, Hayden Wesneski. Tell me what you've seen. What do you think? What's his upside?
It's really tough to say. Again, pitching has been weird thus far, so I don't think we've mentioned that. It's weird for any rookie coming up or young guy coming up, but it's even weirder just this year. Like I think they're getting used to the clock. You know, they're checking their fingers all the time.
Right,
The strike zone. Sometimes you get the veterans are going to get the edges. Young pitchers are not. That even happened with Cabrera a lot today versus Philly.
yep,
They're not going to get the corners. And he's a corner type. He in both starts he significantly lost his command, and that's what makes him good, right? The command with the movement and
right.
his ability to locate because he's what max 93. But I forgive him for the last start because that was a clusterfuck in Chicago. The wind was blowing out, right?
Right,
Um, you know, I think everybody was, the M's pitcher flexing, Mr. Command Control.
right.
Um,
Gave up like 8 runs, right?
yeah, and you can't, what are you going to do? I'm either going to walk a guy and try to hit the corners, or I'm going to pitch it over and they're just going to kill the ball with the way the wind was blowing out. So,
Right.
but I would go back to that first start. He was struggling with command there. I do have some questions, but I think once he gets into the flow, he can be that 3-4 starter. But I never seen him. I invested in him by a late pick in our league or our home league, but I never saw him as kind of that elite pitcher. I thought he'd be a good risk, and yeah, right there.
You
Um,
got some good blue going on there, right?
yeah, exactly. And look at the velocity, but what makes him good is the spin, right?
Right.
And he has decent extension as well. But
Well,
yeah,
and
he's
the sweeper is an incredible pitch, right? You can see here, even in limited pitches,
mm-hmm.
167 average, 167 slug. You look at
The fastball is
2022,
a cracker.
right? Even in 22, right? It was a 119 average and a 310 slug against
Mm-hmm.
the sweeper, and he had a 33.3% whiff rate. But his sweeper is great. Like I think he's one of those guys that the more he can throw breaking balls, I think the better he does.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, but Cubs pitchers are kind of like are beholden to whatever the wind wants to do. If you
Mm-hmm.
happen to start on a day when the wind's blowing out, it's really difficult to pitch in Chicago.
Mm-hmm. That's why Stroman was a brilliant signing by Chicago. Ground
Right.
ball pitcher,
Totally.
knows how to pitch
Yep.
in those conditions.
So not a prospect, but someone we have to talk about. Jared Kelnick. What do you make of his start of his 480 whatever foot home run he hit in wind aided Chicago tonight?
Mm-hmm.
Is it for real? Are you excited? How do you deal in fantasy wise? How do you deal with this kind of start from a player who had like top 10 pedigree in 21, came in 22, total bust, screwed up, post hype, comes into 23, like hits well in spring training. You wonder if he's for real, and comes out absolutely just raking in the first couple of games of
Mm-hmm.
23.
Yeah, I've listened to a lot of broadcasts, and what the broadcasters have been saying is he's taking notes from France actually. So he's trying to just hit it up the middle
Mm-hmm.
and not trying to overly power it pull side. Pitch recognition. His pitch recognition when he first came up was kind of a shock, right? Because that he was supposed to be good at that, his with
Right.
his eye, with his hit. So I'm not shocked at all. I think there's kind of what I like about Seattle, and I'm a homer here, but I think they kind of are having a come to Jesus moment.
Mhm.
I think Depoto and Service, in hearing them on the local 710, they're really pissed at the team last week, as far as their plate discipline, especially the veterans. And there's a huge difference now. They're just calm now. They're not trying to have these elite exit velocities. And I think when you relax, just like with a golf swing, if you have a smooth swing, you'll get good torque and you'll hit the
Right.
shit out of the ball. And I think that's what they're doing. They're patient, like Teoscar, same thing.
Yep.
Teoscar was swinging at the first pitch all the time. Now he's being more patient. He's being more selective, and so I think that kind of has played out with that whole lineup now. That they have that sense, just as a pitcher that's on has the command, so hitters have command of the strike zone when they're on.
So where does Kelnick end up stats wise at the end of 23?
I think he could be easily 280, 30 home runs.
Really?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So I
As
shouldn't,
far as
I
far as
shouldn't,
far
I
as
shouldn't
ceiling.
have traded him for Gavin Stone, is what you're telling me.
I gave up on him last year, so I'm
Right.
just as much to blame. Yeah, and maybe there's a little bit of, if he was like a Chas McCormick, it's like, this is just fluke at the start of the year. But we're
Right.
talking about an elite prospect, right?
Right. Right.
This is where
Pedigree's
pedigree
there.
matters.
Mm-hmm.
So
Pedigree.
yeah.
I see like a 25, and I think people are overrating his speed. I see 10 steals,
Hmm.
but if he elevates in the lineup, you're talking about 90 runs, 90 RBIs.
Hmm.
Uh, as a Mariners fan, I'm very encouraged by his start. Obviously, I think that he's still gonna have to prove that he can hit the breaking ball. He hit a fastball off of Julian Mayweather because Mayweather can't throw a breaking ball for a strike, right? So he's lucky enough to go against um, pitchers that can't throw strikes with breaking balls. But hey, that's half the league. Uh, I'm excited. I don't know. I can't trust it completely because it's Jared Kelnick and I'm a Mariners fan, but super excited about what he's shown thus far. Um, so if we move to the minor leagues and not the players who have graduated, uh, who are the first couple of players on your list that you're excited about or that you've seen um, perform in the first couple of games here?
Can I remain Homer here?
Of course.
Um, yeah, so I watched a lot of his at bats. It's Harry Ford, and I'll say something radical here. He seems like a Rutschman with more athleticism, in the sense of his pitch recognition is elite.
Yep.
Um, he but he has the it, is what I'm trying to say here. And watching him, I think they've been alternating catcher DH, catcher DH, catcher DH. I need to go see him in Everett. He's just down the street here.
Yep.
But he has that it factor, and I could see why Depoto wants to keep him at catcher, because there is that, he could be the quarterback of the franchise, right?
Right.
Um, and I think too often when you get an athletic catcher type, um that and I'll be I won't be cautious here, I guess, that isn't white. Sometimes you get this sense that oh, they're going to move off that position, right?
Right.
Just like in the NFL with what we say about quarterbacks, right?
Right.
But I see him staying there. I could see him playing multiple positions, but yeah, I love what I see so far. He's the leader of that team in Everett, and I could see that coming up. I could see him in Double A pretty soon, and they want to see what he's going to do with that team, and then Double A, Triple A next year.
So is he your number one catcher?
Oh yeah, I think Endy's right up there as well. I like Endy as well, but yeah, he's to me he's the prototypical. He's the next one catcher when it comes to catchers coming up. You know, kind of in the if Rutschman kind of led that this current series of good catchers, which we're seeing right now, I think Ford is coming in as one with the next group of catchers.
Right.
I think Cuero will be right up there with him as well. Cuero's
Mhm.
off to a great start with the Angels, but that's the Angels. So
Right. Well, so that's a good. So I agree with everything you said about Ford. No debates there. So that actually segues into Logan O'Hoppe. Like O'Hoppe is raked up to this point.
yes,
Um, I saw it. I don't know that a lot of other folks did. Um, what do you make of it? What do you think he's going to end up at? Like, how do you value him? Um, and why didn't others see what he was capable of?
yeah, I think some of it. What was he drafted like 29th round or
So O'Hoppe was a 23rd round pick. Pick three of the 23rd round, 677 overall by the Phillies in the 2018 draft.
Mhm.
Was traded for straight up for Brandon Marsh. He's now the starting catcher and the regular catcher for the Los Angeles Angels. Um, so for me, in my updated 100, he was let's see, number 48. I saw him as a like high teens, low 20s home run, probably 260 hitter, maybe 270, but he was going to play a lot and he was 23 years old. He put up tremendous numbers in the minor leagues. I guess what I'm asking is why was he so underrated by fantasy managers in redraft coming into 23?
Mhm. I think it's the assumption of that is he a pop-up catcher or is he the real thing? Um,
Mhm.
and I think people are making that assumption, you know, because of he doesn't have that pedigree of, you know, the Rutschman as the 1-1 overall pick or Davis, what 2 years later after Rutschman,
Right.
and now he's surpassed Davis. So, but it is interesting he doesn't have the sometimes you'll get these players that come in as kind of the pop-up underdog type of guy, and
Uh-huh.
he didn't have that feel with him either when he came up. So yeah, I just think he was overlooked. People were cautious about the Angels too.
Right.
I think if he remained with Philly and maybe if there were issues with injury with the Phillies, you know, that he'd be next in line, but
Right.
that's not the case with JT being healthy and so forth.
Yep. So for the sake of time, I have a couple of questions about players that are near and dear to both of us. I'm going to put them in a group. So Elijah Green, Miguel Blaze. Let me scroll down the list to find like the guys that we just are in love with that are like in low A essentially right now.
Wood,
Yeah, James Wood, another good one. Lazaro Montes.
Rodriguez, Manuel Rodriguez.
Yep. Even uh Ethan Salas, who hit a home run off of
Oh, yeah.
Jose Castillo today. It was all over Twitter.
He's on our league's waiver tonight. Let's see if anybody picks him up.
Yep. What do you make of those like single A, low A, rookie ball sorts of guys that everyone's talking about right now, right? If I was to trade Miguel Blaze in our dynasty league, I could probably get a king's ransom. Um,
Mm-hmm.
Josue De Paula, another one.
Oh yeah.
Like, how do you feel about those guys? How do you approach them a couple weeks in? Um, how do you value a player like that, right? That's being
Yeah.
talked about a ton on Twitter, a ton by prospect guys, but has not necessarily put up the full season uh, stats in the United States that you might want to see before actually giving up something of value for them.
Yeah. So I think a lot of it, I think just watch them, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I'll just take Elijah Green because I'm watching him a lot, right? He's struggling currently. I'll note that he struck out like like I think maybe 5 out of the last 6 at bats.
Right.
Um, but if you just see him on the field compared to other players, it's like, you know, the potential is there.
Right.
As far as he just stands out as an athlete who also knows baseball, right? I think his current stats, Fredericksburg, he has one walk, 7 Ks. This is kind of older. This is from Baseball Reference. So he's in the. What's weird about him is kind of like Ellie, right? He's batting 360, but he has tons of Ks. But
Right.
it's not like he's all giving out for all power. He's hitting line drives up the middle. He's hitting opposite way. He has opposite field power. He's fast as hell, right?
Right.
Already has a couple stolen bases.
Hey, he has 2 steals in 4 games.
Yes, and so yeah, he's just one you to watch, right? And he is going to struggle with Ks. So let's see how that improves. How
Right.
is his pitch recognition? That's why he's in single A.
Right.
He needs to develop that pitch recognition. But I never questioned his hit. He could hit the bat to ball. It's not just about power for him.
So how do you grade his hit tool right now? Is it a 45? Is it a 50? Is it a 40? Where do you put it?
I would put it at a 50.
Okay.
Um, if he continues to and this is a game, right? So they're pitching it over the middle a lot to him at the start. So they have a feel for him just as pitchers have a feel for him, just as he's getting a feel for the league. So the word is out on him. So yeah, he's K'ing a lot. So how is now his turn to adjust?
Right.
So
So
that's what I'm looking for right
so
now.
Green, Blaze, DePaula, rank them 1, 2, and 3 for you.
Um, um, I'm not sure if that's a fair question yet. I would rank Green just because I think he has the 5 categories for
Mm-hmm.
sure, right? Um, and another one I put in there is Erod, but Emmanuel Rodriguez I wouldn't put there because he has speed, but he doesn't have the elite potential with
Right.
speed. So I would
He's
go
a
with
4 tool guy, like a Juan
yeah, four
Soto.
tool guy, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So Green has that 5 tool. He could be I think we've said this over and over. He could be a failure in the minors, or he could be a 40-40 guy.
Right.
So I would still have him ahead, just because of that 40-40 ceiling.
Okay. So I have Blaze, Green, DePaula, but I'm super interested in DePaula's season this year.
Uh-huh.
And I wonder if he transcends both of them just because of the average in the both the hit tool and the power tool, right? DePaul is the one
Mm-hmm.
who doesn't have the speed that
Mm-hmm.
Green does, and even a Blaze does. But I wonder if the hit tool and the power tool does um, move him forward above them. Um, I have to ask. So Edouard Julien gets promoted, right?
Mm-hmm.
Today to the Twins or yesterday, whatever it was. What do you expect from him? Is he someone that even in a redraft league you would target? Um, I'm always curious about like the high OBP minor league guys because you wonder like are they going to continue to walk as much as they did in once they reach the major leagues?
Mm-hmm.
Obviously there's going to be a slight reduction, but that's kind of his main tool, that and his power. Is he going to maintain that sort of stat profile now that he's on the Twins?
I would group him along with Vargas. He's a Vargas type.
Yep.
I don't see him as having that elite potential. Um, the elite. What helps him is he's second base eligible, and second base is a weak position in the MLB right now,
Right.
and so he could be helpful in that way. Minnesota has, unlike the Dodgers, has all kinds of flexibility with lineups, so I could
Right.
see him moving to the top of the lineup, which would help him a lot compared to a Vargas. So I don't think he has the same power potential as Vargas either. I don't think his slug has ever been in the 500s in the minors.
Right.
So I think there's a lot of hype around him. I even think a Norby would be a little more interesting because he does have that the power there.
Right.
But then you have the issue with Norby. Where's he going to bat in Baltimore?
So
Um,
if I look at, so if I'm thinking about Julian and I'm thinking about Vargas in a redraft league, right? And I'm
mm,
looking at second base, and I've got Simeon, I've got Altuve when he gets back, I've got Albies, Jimenez, Chisholm. Those two don't rank above any of those five, right? That's
mm,
kind of a given. Now, the next tier for me was Ketel Marte, Jorge Polanco, Tommy Edman, Gleyber Torres, Brandon Lowe. Is Julian or Vargas in that range for you?
um, I I don't think they have the ceiling of it Marte seems to be getting his groove back, right?
Mm-hmm.
Especially now that he started out the season swinging and everything, but he's being more selective. He's already hit like 5 doubles.
Right.
He's going to be at the top of that lineup.
Right.
Um, yeah, and Lau is hitting the shit out of the ball in a great lineup. Yeah, I don't see them having the ceiling of those players there.
Right. I think if Vargas steals some bases and hits home runs, I can see him in that tier, but I don't see him ascending like above that tier, right? But that's if
Hmm.
Vargas hits his like 90th percentile at age 23.
Hmm.
Um, the next tier for me was Gavin Lux before he got hurt, Colton Wong, Tyro Estrada, Jacob Cronenworth, Jeff McNeil, Luis Ariz. I assume that Vargas is at the top of that tier and Julian is somewhere in the middle. Am I correct?
Yeah, I would put Julian towards the top there too. I would roster him above most of those players you listed.
Okay. So what we're saying is they're like at the very bottom end of a 12 team redraft. Um, not necessarily someone you're gonna like go out and aggressively try to acquire in a redraft league. Maybe in a dynasty, like Vargas for sure, and maybe a Julian. Am I right in
Hmm.
assuming that?
Hmm. Yeah,
Um,
I think one of the other indicators, like teams know too, right? So so one of the indicators of an elite prospect, um, and a hint from a front office is if there's rumors about negotiations when the players come up, right?
right,
So and we saw that come to fruition with Carroll, right?
right,
Um and so we don't see that with those two players.
right,
There's even, and again, this is a homer thing for my own fantasy team, but there's rumors of even a team like Tampa discussing with Mead, right?
right.
So
Totally.
so the teams know who their elite players are, and I don't see either of them being that they're going to have to earn that extension.
Right. Maybe Vargas, definitely not Julian. Let's take a quick break. We will come back, discuss some young pitching, and then we'll be done.
All right.
Good stuff. All right, man. Minor league pitching. Let's go down the list. Gavin Williams, dominant so far. When do you expect Gavin Williams to be up with the Cleveland Indians, Cleveland Guardians?
Um, he could be a mid season call up, especially with the injuries they're having. I don't
Mm-hmm.
see him. I don't see them doing it right away. They have a lot of kind of 3, 4 potential starters on in their rotation that they're bringing up. I think they'll bring up
Or
Logan
five,
Allen.
Savale five.
Yeah, they'll bring up Logan Allen at some point. I think before Williams.
Yep.
And Allen's really interesting. He had a shitty year last year, but he has decent stuff. But he's not a ceiling one elite.
No.
He's a 3, 4 ceiling. So I think they'll continue to bring those types up until mid-season, and they're going to limit his innings too. So it may be a situation where, has he Is he pitching what, 4 or 5 innings in his, how many starts has he had? Two?
I think he's had one, I think, so far.
One. Okay. Yeah, I think they'll continue that, like what what Baltimore did with G-Rod, just doing those short stints.
Right. So, okay, who else do we have here?
Perez was completely dominant until the second or third time through. He lost it in the fourth inning. But that seems to be typical of starters. I watched the start, and it was kind of similar to G-Rod's start yesterday. That he's just kind of lost stamina. They started to hit him. He started to kind of nitpick with his pitches. So nothing overly concerning there. I think even the reliever that came in was the one that gave up the runs that he left, the players that he left on base. So,
Right.
And he was throwing in the high 90s easily.
So Bryce Miller, Bobby Miller, Tink Hence, Andrew Painter, Ricky Tiedemann. I understand injury concerns. What about those guys? How do you approach those guys in a redraft? How do you approach them in Dynasty right now?
Um, yeah, I think at this point you look for the elite one, right? That you could hold on to,
Mm-hmm.
like people who got you know got the painters last year. You're looking for somebody who just stands out. I think Gavin Williams would be one of those people that you would want. Is he even rostered in our league?
I don't think so.
Yeah. So I would look for those elite ones versus those middling ones. Like your favorite fought, right? Um But Pot's not somebody I would look for except for proximity, but that's somebody I could try to pull up at the last minute. Somebody our does already have him in our league, but yeah, not somebody I would invest in at this point. So I'd be looking at the Henses, the Williams, the Tiedemans. Is Tiedemann, has he pitched yet, or are they still being cautious about his
I don't
arm?
I don't think he has. I can look it up. I don't think he has.
And Painters threw today. They're not saying much. He was throwing in the outfield, and they're gonna try to amp him up and see what happens. There was a study that the type of injury he has, maybe 2 out of 15 get Tommy John surgery. So there is hope that it's not like a complete tear that will require it.
Right. Tiedemann has not pitched.
He hasn't pitched.
No,
Okay.
has not.
Our waivers
I
just came on the subject of prospects. Our waivers just came up.
I
So,
saw.
did you see who got Nolan Jones?
Yep. Balls deep.
Yeah.
Of course he did. So Bryce Miller, man, like Bryce Miller's dope. Bryce Miller is going to be, whether he's a reliever or a starter, is going to be very good. And like, so he's 24, going on 25. The Mariners are going to roster him. Like, go grab him. If you're in a redraft and you have a space, go grab him because he's going to strike out a ton of guys. Mid 90s, high 90s, like high 80s slider, amazing pitcher. It frustrates me that he's as underrated as he is. So he's my number 33 starter overall, above Painter, above Hens, above Miller at this point in time.
Hmm.
Any other pitching you want to talk about as of right now?
Um, nope. I think going off our favorite fought, right? He had the typical Arizona start of what, 7 Ks, no walks, but gave up 4 home runs, right? And so what's going to happen with that? He isn't the typical control pitcher, command pitcher in the sense that he's going to K people like yeah, that
What
throws caution out.
but where does Brandon Fott end up in your fantasy rotation?
I'm not investing in him. I think who's more fascinating, and I just love him as a character, as a pitcher, is Jameson. Um, he's throwing high 90s. Where Scooby-Doo cleats kind of has that Zach Greinke type of feel with him as far as the personality.
Okay,
Um,
but where does Fott end up in your rotation as a
I'm
as
telling you,
a
I would
fantasy
choose
owner?
at this moment, even though Jameson is rostered as well as in our league, I would go after Jameson and not Fott.
What about dynasty?
Dynasty, Jameson. I just can't the fastball is disappearing. Um I like people that have fastballs with movement of the off speed, and Jameson has that potential. So I'm looking for standout elite starting pitchers at this point.
Right.
Fott is not a standout elite starting pitcher. I think Jameson could be. He may end up as an elite closer at some point, but you know that's still to be said. But the way he pitched against Milwaukee yesterday was or was it today? Um, it was quite interesting.
Okay.
He was in control and command.
So Fott or McAble?
Oh, Mick Abel by far. Has Abel started yet?
No, I think he started either no, Abel's tomorrow. So I have the list of tomorrow is Gavin Williams, Dax Fulton, Mick Abel, Mason Montgomery, Bryce Miller, Nick Frosso, Owen White. All start tomorrow. I
Oh, okay.
love, love the minor leagues. Love
Yeah,
it. Like super
those are good
pumped. So
matchup.
Mick Abel or Jack Leiter?
Abel. By the way, Abel did pitch and he was pulled early after walking four people.
Mick
Um,
Abel or Noah Schultz?
um, I don't know enough about Schultz to make an educated analysis there. What would you say,
Schultz.
Schultz?
Abel or Bubba Chandler?
Chandler.
McAbel or Harleen Susana?
Um, as far as ceiling upside, oh, Susana.
McAbel or DL Hall?
Abel. Paul's
Mc,
gonna
go
Hall
ahead.
Hall Hall has I can see Abel getting easily a hold of his control and command, and if he does, he could be a one a 1B or a two starter. I see Hall just struggling too much.
Yep.
Hall could be an elite lefty closer in the future.
McAbel or Ryan Pepio?
Abel.
Okay. I just went down my list.
Oh, you did.
Yeah, we're good. SPs were good. Any other minor leaguers you want to talk about that you're excited about?
Well, let's talk about the kind of late uprising ones. So we have Nolan Jones, who was just called up by Colorado. Everybody's rostering him today in our leagues. And then we have our favorites in the past, Joe Adell, right? He leads the minors in home runs with 7 now.
Yep.
So yeah, so start with one of them.
All right. So Joe Adele, Sal Frelick, any of those guys who are like on the verge, how much do you pay for them? How excited are you for either of them?
I want Adele to be traded. I I, I don't think I think there's been spurts of the Angels giving him daily reps, but those have just been spurts. Trade him to a team that's going to play him every day and see what he could offer.
I think they're afraid. I think they're afraid of trading him and seeing him blow up, honestly.
Yeah. Well, look what I think this is kind of funny with Boston and Cordero, right? You know, that was the big part of the Benintendi trade. They let
Yep.
him go, and now he's on the Yankees, a team that knows how to deal with hitters,
Yep.
and he's exploding, right? And Boston's probably, and I already talked to a couple Boston fans. They're like, "Oh no, this all over again." But
Right. They're pissed.
yeah, and that's what they're for. Yeah, I think that's a good assessment. Adele has the stuff. He's still only 23, right?
Right.
Um, yeah, and the Angels didn't develop him. They called him up too early. He was affected by the COVID year. Um,
All right.
uh,
So Joe Adele or Spencer Jones?
well, that's kind of the proximity thing, right? Um,
Well, but it's a question: Joe Adele or Spencer Jones? Which one?
um, I think both are available in our league. I would go with Adele just because
All right.
I've owned him in the past and I want to see him succeed.
Joe Adele or Sal Frelick?
Oh, Adele by far.
Joe Adele
I think it says something.
Gabriel Gonzalez.
Oh, I like Gonzalez. Gonzalez has a strike zone. Ask me, Adele or Weimer.
Weimer's not my top 100. So Joe Adele or Drew Jones?
Oh, Joe Adele.
Joe Adele or Pete Crow Armstrong?
Joe Adele.
Joe Adele or Emmanuel Rodriguez?
Emmanuel Rodriguez.
Joe Adele, Christian Vaquero?
Vaquero.
Joe Adele or Heston Kierstead?
Oh, I like Kierstead. I would go with
Why?
Kierstead.
If they're both power players, why Kierstead?
Um, I think
Similar players, right?
very
Statistically
similar
similar
players.
players.
I just like what Baltimore did. If is doing, um, if if Adele was on another team or if there were trade rumors, if he's traded, I would put him right there with Kierstad. But Baltimore is just they're doing it right, and I think the Angels. I don't think Adele is on Adele. I think that Adele is on the Angels.
Right? Or Joe Adele or Drew Gilbert?
Oh, Adele,
Gavin Cross.
Adele. Cross kind of spunky like
Joe
Beamer.
Adele or Jason Dominguez?
Um, I believe in Dominguez. Dominguez has he has the ceiling potential, but he also has the pitch recognition, the plate discipline. Yeah.
All right. So he's basically above any like promoted now prospects, but below any high potential single A, double A guys, is what
Mm-hmm.
I'm hearing.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. That's fair. Any other prospects?
And what's your critique of Nolan Jones? So you have somebody who has had major strikeout problems in the past, but also great eye, right?
I think
Good
it's a lot.
recognition.
That's a lottery ticket for me.
Mm-hmm.
He's in Colorado, going from Cleveland to Colorado, good park, more opportunity. He's a lottery ticket, right? Like he could be amazing or he could be the next Ryan McMahon, right?
Mm-hmm.
I'm good. I can pass on him if he's great. That's fine. I'm good passing on him.
What
Um,
what what would you say great for him would be? What's his ceiling in Colorado?
30 home runs,
Mm-hmm.
probably 260 and 30 home runs at third
Mm-hmm.
base, which would be great, which I would want, which I would wish I had, but I don't think he's reaching that. I really don't.
Mm-hmm.
Um, all right. Matthew Libertor, Nate Pearson, Luis Ortiz, DL Hall. Real quick. Anybody there? Like Libertor got picked up in our league. Do you have anything
Mm-hmm.
to say about him? Are you excited about Luis Ortiz at all?
Ortiz is struggling right now, right?
Yep.
Um,
Or and Kumar Rocker,
oh
who's
yeah, Kumar Rocker, yeah. It all to me, a lot of this has to do with who is their Jesus, right? Who's discipling them? So you got Rocker in a system that has revamped itself. that has the Maddoxes kind of leading the way with pitchers. That's where I'm more confident in Leiter compared to maybe others. But I think Rocker has the ceiling that Leiter doesn't have. Great system. Liberatore, same thing. Great system. And that's why even he hasn't come up yet. Has Hence how to start yet?
Nope.
Okay.
Oh yeah, he started yesterday, I believe. Let me see.
Yeah, he has
Wow,
one
regardless,
start.
he
Oh
bench
yeah,
pressed.
yeah. So look, and they're doing the G-Rod thing. So just 4 innings, but 4 innings, 1 hit, two walks, and 6 Ks, right?
Right.
Um, he could be that next one starter, the next elite number one MLB pitching prospect. So yeah, I love what St. Louis does with their pitchers. Liberatore is like a three max starter, but three max starter in St. Louis is a good thing. So
Right.
yeah, so
Any other minor leaguers you want to talk about that you're excited about? Celestin, Cole Young, uh, Jordan Westberg. Any guys you want to talk about that we haven't covered thus far?
um
Your boy, Junior Caminero.
yeah, Caminero with that first game, right? When with 5 hits.
Yep.
I think Norby, he's like getting all the press right now, but I don't know. What's weird about the minors is they never tell anything about injuries. He hasn't played the last two games, so I wonder what's going on there. Um, Norby's batting two. He's been playing the outfield too, which shows that maybe Baltimore is thinking of calling him up sooner than later to play multiple positions up there. But
Right.
but yeah, I'm more interested. I've been spending more time in high A, just because there's a lot of cool players there right now.
Yep.
Emmanuel Rodriguez is one. Like he's batting 200, 2 home runs, but his OPS is over 1,000, batting 200.
No, he's not.
Right? Because he's either walking, he's either hitting a home run, 450 feet with
Grand
110
slam to
exit
end the game.
velocity,
Right.
or he's striking
So
out.
the thing I wanted to end this pod with was Double A tomorrow,
Mhm.
Thursday, when there's not a lot of major league games. You have Gavin Williams starting for Akron, Dax Fulton, Mick Abel, Mason Montgomery, Bryce
Yeah.
Miller, Nick Frasso, and Owen White are all starting uh, minor league baseball games tomorrow.
Awesome.
I love it. I love minor league baseball. Obviously, I want Andy Rodriguez and some of the other guys on my team to get promoted, but like while they're not, there's so much great baseball to watch. More
Mhm.
baseball than any of us can consume.
Uh-huh. And
I
that's the
love it, man.
beauty of dynasty keeper leagues is they're really, I think minors is getting a lot more attention now that it
Yep.
deserves.
Yep.
And I think too long it's been ignored, and it's the heart of baseball. This is where the players come from, right?
Yep. I love it. All
All
right,
right,
bro.
man.
Anything
Have a
else?
good night. Nope, just looking forward to some more stuff. I think we could have some updates coming up next week as far as with these players graduating, who's going to be in our top tens, with at least 6 of them graduating that are in our top 10.
Yep. I love it, man.
All right, take it easy.
Pleasure, bro. You too. Thank you.